why you should practice speaking. Alex stared blankly at the job application, a pang of anxiety gripping their chest. The dream role in London felt utterly out of reach, not because of qualifications, but due to a crippling fear of speaking English. Specifically, speaking British English, with its peculiar nuances and swift accents, felt like an insurmountable mountain to climb. The silence felt deafening. Every attempt to voice an opinion in English classes ended in stuttering embarrassment. Why did mistakes always plague Alex's every utterance? The words would simply vanish, leaving only a red blush spreading across their cheeks. It was a disheartening cycle, making practice feel utterly pointless and futile. Confidence was truly at rock bottom. Alex desperately desired to communicate smoothly, to articulate thoughts without hesitation, to sound authentically British, not just textbook accurate. The vivid images of bustling London streets and charming countryside pubs, all filled with lively conversations, danced in Alex's mind, amplifying the deep-seated frustration and quiet despair. One dreary afternoon, while scrolling through online forums, Alex stumbled upon a simple yet profound piece of advice. Just speak, even if it's dreadful. This wasn't a magic spell, but a tiny spark of hope flickered. Could it really be that simple, yet so terrifyingly difficult, to just let the words flow? The first step was listening, deeply listening. Alex immersed themselves in British podcasts, BBC radio dramas, and countless documentaries, absorbing the intonation, rhythm, and colloquialisms. It wasn't about understanding every single word initially, but rather about tuning the ear to the melodic cadences of the language. This was crucial. Hours blurred into days, days into weeks. Alex listened while cooking, while commuting, even while sleeping, or so it felt. The sounds of crisp T's and dropped H's began to seep into their consciousness. Slowly, incredibly slowly, the fear of not comprehending started to recede, replaced by a nascent familiarity. Next came reading. Not just dry textbooks, but engaging British novels. Agatha Christie mysteries, Jane Austen's witty dialogues, and modern thrillers became Alex's companions. Reading aloud, even in a whispered mumble, forced the mouth to form the shapes of English words, connecting the written form with the spoken sound. This combined approach of listening and reading was slowly building a foundation. New words were not merely memorized, they were encountered in context, making their meanings stick more firmly. Brilliant and lovely became regular additions to Alex's passive vocabulary, waiting for their chance to truly shine. The real hurdle, however, remained speaking. Alex tried talking to the mirror, a clumsy, self-conscious affair. Sentences felt awkward, vocabulary seemed to vanish just when needed, and the imagined scrutiny was unbearable. The fear of sounding silly, of making glaring mistakes, continued to be a formidable barrier. One evening, a particularly frustrating mirror session ended in tears. Alex felt utterly defeated, questioning whether this monumental effort was even worthwhile. Perhaps the dream of London was simply too grand, too ambitious for someone so perpetually tongue-tied. The desire to give up was almost overwhelming. A friend, noticing Alex's distress, suggested a language exchange partner. "You don't have to be perfect," they gently encouraged. "Just find someone keen to chat, even if you both stumble." It's about communication, not perfection, mate. The idea was terrifying, but also presented a new, potentially crucial pathway. Reluctantly, Alex joined an online language exchange platform, heart pounding like a drum. The thought of a live conversation, directly facing another person, even virtually, sent shivers down their spine. What if they couldn't understand? What if they laughed? What if silence descended uncomfortably? After several false starts and awkward rejections, Alex connected with Leo, a jovial young man from Manchester, eager to practice his own foreign language. Their first conversation was a mess of hesitations and apologies, punctuated by nervous laughter. Alex felt the familiar blush creep up their neck. Yet, Leo was patient, encouraging, and surprisingly understanding. He corrected gently, rephrased kindly, and never once made Alex feel foolish. "No worries, everyone makes a hash of it sometimes," he'd say with a comforting northern lilt. This kindness was a truly unexpected, valuable gift. They decided to meet twice a week, just for 30 minutes, focusing on casual conversation. The initial sessions were still nerve-wracking. Alex would spend hours beforehand preparing simple sentences, only for them to evaporate the moment Leo's face appeared on screen. It was truly frustrating. Gradually, incrementally, something began to shift. The consistent exposure to real, spontaneous conversation, even with its imperfections, started to chip away at the layers of self-doubt. The act of speaking, however flawed, felt less like a performance and more like a genuine exchange. Leo introduced Alex to common British idioms, explaining their context with amusing anecdotes. Gutted meant extremely disappointed, he'd explain with a sigh. Chuffed meant pleased, often with a cheeky grin. Learning these expressions made the language feel more alive, more authentic, and far less intimidating. They started talking about everyday things, their favorite British TV shows, the weather, a classic topic, Leo insisted, and what they had for dinner. These mundane topics removed much of the pressure, allowing Alex to focus purely on forming sentences and expressing simple ideas. The biggest breakthrough came when Alex stopped fearing mistakes. Leo often said, "Mistakes are just signposts, pointing to where you need to learn next. They're not failures, just feedback, mate." This perspective truly resonated, reframing error as an essential part of the learning journey. Each mispronounced word or grammatical slip became an opportunity, not a reason for despair. Alex started noting down recurring errors, looking them up later, and consciously trying to correct them in subsequent conversations. This proactive approach drastically accelerated their progress. The British accent, once a formidable challenge, became a playful imitation. Leo would playfully correct Alex's water to water or butter to butter, turning the learning into a light-hearted game. This light touch made the difficult task of pronunciation feel surprisingly enjoyable. Alex started to notice subtle improvements. Sentences flowed more naturally. Pauses became less frequent and filled with actual thought rather than panic. The confidence that had been so elusive now began to cautiously sprout, like a shy little seedling pushing through the earth. The transformation was slow, almost imperceptible day by day, but undeniable week by week. The quiet, hesitant speaker was slowly morphing into someone who could hold a conversation, ask questions, and even crack a few jokes in English, albeit sometimes still a bit nervously. One particularly encouraging moment arrived when Leo complimented Alex's progress. "You're really coming on, aren't you? Your English is top-notch now, proper brilliant." Those words from a native speaker felt like pure gold, solidifying Alex's belief in their own capabilities. Alex also began applying the listen and practice philosophy to other areas of their life. Before watching a British film, they would read summaries. After, they would try to recount the plot aloud, perhaps even role-playing scenes. This active engagement deepened understanding. The fear of sounding silly diminished significantly. Alex realized that most people were far too focused on their own communication to judge someone else's accent or grammatical slips too harshly. Politeness and genuine effort mattered far more than perfect articulation. Reading aloud became a daily ritual. From short news articles to chapters of novels, Alex would read, focusing on rhythm and intonation, trying to mimic the British speakers heard on podcasts. This practice further solidified vocabulary and improved fluidity of expression. New words were no longer just definitions, they were tools. Alex actively tried to incorporate recently learned vocabulary into conversations with Leo, even if it felt a little forced at first. This deliberate application moved words from passive recognition to active usage. The story of Alex's journey wasn't about overnight success, but about consistent, determined effort. It was about showing up, even when exhausted, even when progress felt agonizingly slow. Each small step, no matter how tiny, contributed to the colossal leap forward. Alex learned that building confidence in speaking wasn't about becoming someone else, but about unlocking the voice that was already there, buried under layers of self-doubt. It was about giving that voice permission to exist, to make mistakes, and to learn. The job application, once a source of terror, now seemed like a challenge to embrace. Alex decided to apply, knowing that even if the speaking part of the interview was difficult, they had developed the resilience and the skills to face it head-on. During the interview, Alex felt a familiar flutter of nerves, but this time, it was different. The words still didn't flow perfectly, but they flowed. There were pauses, certainly, but no debilitating silence. The fear of mistakes was replaced by a quiet determination. Alex remembered Leo's voice. "Just keep going, you've got this." They articulated their points, listened carefully to the interviewer's British accent, and responded thoughtfully, even asking clarifying questions when necessary. It was far from a flawless performance, but it was genuine. A few weeks later, an email arrived. Alex had secured the dream job in London. The excitement was overwhelming, a mixture of disbelief and profound gratitude. This wasn't just about a job, it was about conquering a deeply ingrained personal fear. Arriving in London, Alex found themselves navigating conversations with colleagues and locals with a newfound ease. Small talk in the office kitchen, ordering a proper cuppa at the cafe, or asking for directions near Buckingham Palace felt incredibly natural. There were still moments of confusion, of course. New slang terms would crop up, or a particularly strong regional accent would present a momentary challenge. But now, instead of retreating, Alex would simply ask, "Sorry, could you explain that?" The learning never truly stopped. Alex continued listening to British radio, reading the local newspapers, and even joined a book club to engage in deeper discussions. The city itself became a giant, immersive language school, offering endless opportunities for growth. The bond with Leo strengthened, transforming from a language exchange into a true friendship. They would still chat regularly, now discussing life in London and their shared interests, no longer solely focused on language practice, yet still constantly improving. Alex discovered that true fluency wasn't about eradicating every single mistake. It was about the ability to communicate effectively and confidently, to connect with people, and to participate fully in life, regardless of minor linguistic imperfections. It was about true connection. The journey had taught Alex invaluable lessons beyond language acquisition. It instilled resilience, patience, and the courage to step outside one's comfort zone. It was a testament to the fact that persistent effort, however small daily, truly yields remarkable results. The fear of public speaking, once a crippling adversary, had transformed into a manageable challenge. Alex even found themselves volunteering for presentations at work, a feat they would have deemed utterly impossible just a year prior. It was quite astonishing. The initial query, why I always make mistakes, had evolved into a mantra: mistakes are my teachers. Each error became a stepping stone, a data point for improvement, rather than a mark of failure. This shift in mindset was absolutely paramount. The simple act of talking to people in pairs, exemplified by the sessions with Leo, proved to be the most impactful strategy. It provided a safe, supportive environment for experimentation, immediate feedback, and the gradual building of conversational stamina. Alex often shared their story with others struggling with language anxiety, emphasizing the power of consistent listening, enjoyable reading, and courageous speaking practice. Don't wait for perfection, they would advise. Just start talking, you'll get there. Learning new words also became an organic process, not a forced memorization task. Through context in reading and listening, and then conscious application in speaking, vocabulary effortlessly expanded. It was like collecting treasured little linguistic gems, one by one. The very interesting story was Alex's own narrative, unfolding day by day. It was a personal epic of perseverance, growth, and, ultimately, triumph over self-imposed limitations. The journey itself became the most valuable part of the entire experience. Practicing speaking, even when it felt uncomfortable, was the true catalyst. It forced Alex to actively retrieve and use the language, solidifying passive knowledge into active skill. There's a significant difference between knowing and doing leads to mastery. Listening and practicing went hand in hand, like two sides of the same coin. Listening provided the input, the raw material, while practicing provided the output, the active application. One fed the other, creating a virtuous, accelerating cycle of improvement. English story reading, far from being just a hobby, became an active learning tool. It expanded horizons, offered cultural insights, and provided rich examples of how language is used in real, engaging narratives. It was delightful and educational simultaneously. Alex's experience underscored that fluency is not an endpoint, but a continuous journey of discovery and refinement. There's always more to learn, new nuances to grasp, and different ways to express oneself. It's an exciting, lifelong linguistic adventure. The initial shyness and fear had long evaporated, replaced by a genuine enthusiasm for communication. Alex now found immense joy in connecting with people from diverse backgrounds, their shared language a bridge across cultures and experiences. It was truly rewarding. The fear of sounding too foreign or not British enough completely disappeared. Alex learned to embrace their own unique voice, blending their original accent with learned British intonations, creating a distinctive and authentic speaking style. It was truly empowering. This whole experience wasn't merely about mastering a language, it was about self-discovery. Alex found a strength they never knew existed, a resilience born from countless small acts of courage and persistence. It was a profound personal transformation indeed. Every single mistake, every awkward pause, every moment of confusion had contributed to this success. They weren't obstacles, but stepping stones, vital components of the learning process, shaping Alex into the confident communicator they are today. The final piece of advice Alex would offer: embrace the journey, not just the destination. Celebrate every tiny victory. And remember, every native speaker was once a beginner too. You've absolutely got this. Go for it. Alex's story became a beacon for countless others. Their transformation from a hesitant, mistake-prone speaker to a confident communicator underscored the universal truth: consistent practice, combined with a positive mindset, unlocks boundless potential in language learning.